Hello, my name is Brian Kunka and I'm the co-founder of Bolt & Beam. Our company is a free resource to help homeowners identify the best way possible to sell your home quickly. Now, our company is world-class when it comes to helping you find a buyer for your difficult to sell home or when you need to sell your house lightning fast. Today we're going to talk about all of the costs associated to bringing your house up to date, whether it be costs that you're going to pay to do it yourself or that an investor would pay in order to get it up to date and up to code in order for them to sell it. Some of the things we're going to be looking at are permits costs. We're going to look at some city costs and then also just expectations that new buyers have when they're looking at a house. Let's go take a look. Now, this particular house is overgrown, but that's okay. That's exactly the type of houses we like to deal with and that we're really good at dealing with. One of the things that kind of jump out right away is in this particular city that I'm in, you're actually not allowed to have a fence leaning up against another fence. So we'd actually have to remove that. So there's a small cost associated with removing that. A quick rule of thumb for investors is we're going to spend around $25 to $30 a square foot in repairs. So that's going to be anything from fixing city related stuff to updating kitchens, painting, floors, windows, that type of stuff. So on this particular house, we're 1,000 square feet. You can't even see the darn house, but it is there. It's 1,000 square feet. So we would expect coming in that this house is going to cost us $25,000 to $30,000. So my goal is to just kind of show some of those costs that we're going to expect. So as I'm looking here, this particular city, and most cities honestly, are going to hit you for having this as a tripping hazard. And so they're going to require us to actually remove that, pull a permit, and get new cement in there. I'm probably talking in between $500 and $1,000. As we walk into the house, we see that, paint colors are outdated. House has a little bit of a smell, but that's pretty normal. I mean, this house had a lot of stuff in it at one point, but the smells and that type of stuff go away once you paint, once you remove the carpet, and that type of thing. Now, on this particular house, the windows, yeah, they work perfectly fine. There's no issue with them. A new buyer is expecting new windows. And so we would have to replace all the windows. There are 9 windows in this house in the garage. So you'd probably be looking somewhere around $3,000 to $3,500 to replace all those windows. Now, as we continue to walk through the house, you can see that these 12 by 12 tiles over here, those are, from the 60s or 70s. New buyers do not want that. We'd have to get rid of that. That's not a code thing, but just people don't want it. As I'm looking in here, this particular furnace, it's an older furnace. I don't know exactly how old, but it's definitely more than 15 years old. You're gonna have to go through, a new buyer is gonna expect a new furnace in here. This hot water tank it's in pretty decent shape, so it's probably been replaced in the last 10 years. So you're not gonna need a new hot water tank for this particular house, but if you did, the tank itself is gonna be about $400 to $500 and then another $500 to install it. So you're looking at $1,000 for that. Furnace, you'd probably be looking around $2,000. This is a smaller house with no basement. So around $2,000 or so, give or take $500 to replace that. The other thing that we do when we come through here is we replace all of the vents, all of the electrical switches and plugs, and we get them all to match. The city, they would not ding you on this, but they would hit you if this particular plate or down here if the electrical socket itself had paint on it. So a lot of times people will come through, they'll paint the wall and they'll just paint right over that. That's a no-no, it needs to be replaced. So, and every electrical outlet, it's about $40 to have our guys come through and do that. And so obviously we're going to replace all of the carpeting, going to paint all the walls, and then again, every single room you're going to come through, replace all of the switches, all of the outlets, because the buyers are just expecting a new home. And that is, that's just what today's buyer is looking for. Now we're in the bathroom, and the bathroom is interesting because you got this nice piece of granite right here, which is nice, but it's sitting on top of an old cabinet. So some people paint it, but the reality is the buyers today are savvy and they would kind of see right through that. They're not going to give you the value that you know, they would definitely hit you on a value from that. So as an investor's going to have to come through and actually rip this out. They're going to have to replace the flooring here because the flooring is old. Believe it or not, you can actually clean up the tub, so it's really not that big of a deal. The toilet's new, so you can leave that. But a new vanity to come in here, you're probably talking $400 for the vanity, and then you need somebody to come through and install it, which means they're going to have to hook up the plumbing. So it's probably another, you know, $500 to come through, install the vanity, and hook up the plumbing. Now on this particular room, we're in the bathroom, there is a GFI outlet right here, which anytime you're within 6 feet of water, they're going to require that you have a GFCI, and this room does. So that part is good. As we look into this room, we have pull down attic access, so you're going to have to come through, trim all this out. That would be a part of our $25 to $30 a square foot cost. Doesn't cost a lot, but it's just something that needs to happen. And then the rest of the room, the windows, you can't see it through the screen there. Those are still the same old windows. We'd have to replace that, but you're replacing the vents and the switches, the outlets. And then in this last room, we're going to come through and replace or repaint this entire room, because for whatever reason that happened. I don't exactly know what they were doing here, but they did some type of interesting paint. So we'd come through, take care of that, fix the window by getting a new one. And on this particular room, there is no closet door, so we'd have to get a closet door. $100 for the door, $100 to install it. So we'd have to get a new closet door. And as we come back this way, we're going to take a look into the kitchen. And so we're going to come through, generally speaking, you're probably talking about $400 a room to paint. And so $400 a room to paint. From a flooring perspective, you're probably looking, since this is carpet, you know, you're probably looking at maybe $1,500 for carpet, and maybe, like, you know, if you do like a vinyl in here, $1,000 for vinyl. But now today's buyers, they're coming in, like the cabinets, like they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but today's buyer is gonna ding you severely on that. And they just know. So they would expect new cabinets, new granite, new sink. We'd have to put in a dishwasher, and we'd have to do the same over here. So new cabinets over here. I think I counted earlier, there's 9 cabinets in here. So you're probably talking somewhere in the area of, you know, $2,500 in cabinets. You know, in this particular area, it's a first-time home buyer area. They really are expecting appliances too. So you got to buy a fridge, new stove, put a microwave, get rid of the range hood there and get the microwave, put in that dishwasher, and you're good. Now, one of the things we talked about earlier was having a GFCI outlet within 6 feet of any type of water. This one does not, nor does that one. So you're talking about $100 for each outlet for an electrician to come in and to install that. The granite in a room like this, probably talking about around $1,000 for us to have a granite guy come out here and put some granite in, even though it's not a ton. Appliances, you know, you're probably talking $1,500 to $2,000 in here. As we come into the laundry room, this one's kind of interesting because there's some hidden expenses you wouldn't see here. You know, again, today's buyer would not allow for that. You got to come up with a way to get the plate. So you're going to have an electrician or somebody that's handy figure out how to get that plate even with this tile. So that's one. The other thing is, here's the sink. There's no GFCI, so we need to get a new GFCI out here. This is for the dryer. You can see all this flexible pipe right here. Flexible. And then at the end, they call that a rigid vent, or a rigid vent pipe. A lot of cities are requiring that the rigid vent pipe be the entire way. So they're not allowing flexible venting anymore from your dryer, which just means it's not a crazy expense, but you just have to have a guy come out and do that. And so all this stuff, it just adds up. It's death by 1,000 cuts or death by $100 at a time. And then the other one here is we're looking at fuses. So on this particular city, they're going to require that we swap this out and put in a circuit breaker or a panel there. So you're probably talking $1,500 to $2,000 to get the circuits in there. When I come out here, I'm always looking for like cracked cement. The city loves to hit you on cracked cement. On this particular house, we're looking like we're in pretty good shape. So that's good. I don't see any cracking there, anything here. So we're good. The other thing is the electrical service pole. So where I'm at, they require that this entrance be at 10 feet high, just to make sure that nobody can get electrocuted. And this one is at that. So you don't have to do anything there, but there is an expense to add to the riser. Not on this particular house, but you know, just something that a lot of them you'll see that the panel, like the pole goes right there, or sometimes it'll like go like right into that area. So it's just not safe. So they'll make you swap that out. That'll cost $1,000 to do that. Then as we're coming back to the backyard, something that jumps out to me immediately is this broken window. So even if you don't replace the windows because you don't want to, the city is going to require you to replace that one. And it's actually really interesting. You have to replace those, which we talked about earlier. It's probably, you know, $3,000 to $4,000 for the 9 windows in this house. But this particular city is going to make sure that every window has screens. So even if you left all the windows and that one wasn't broken, they would require that all of these have screens for proper airflow. So that's just another, you know, screens aren't expensive, but it's just another thing that you need to do to bring it up to date. Now I'm looking at the roof. This particular roof, it's the older, you know, 3-tab style. You can see a little bit of, you know, the roof right about there kind of popping up. I think in general this roof is fine. It looks a little bit older, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now I will tell you, this roof does not have any trees on it or near it. Now watch what happens when we look at the garage. There's trees all over the sucker, and what happens is these trees, they beat this roof up and it makes a massive difference. Now this roof looks more hit than our main house roof. And so once you clear everything off, if you look at it and you realize that you're going to need to replace the shingles on here, you know, at the very least I can see some spots where the shingles have blown off up there. If you had to replace the shingles, you're probably talking $2,000 to $2,500. If it was a part of a whole house project, that and the house, be a lot cheaper. You know, you're probably talking $5,000 for all of it, maybe a little bit less. But it is stuff that people are looking, new buyers especially, are looking at the condition of the roof. They're looking at the condition of the furnace. They're looking at the condition of everything. And it's just a much more savvy buyer, because I think what you're finding is, you know, the buyers have switched over now to a point where they just want to move into finished houses. It's just something that we're seeing is a big trend right now. So now we're in this 2-car garage, and the cost doesn't end inside the house. We got to take a look inside this garage. We have this beautiful garage door that's brand new. We have this LiftMaster garage door opener that's in fantastic shape, and then you go to hit the garage door opener, there is no power in here. So the interesting thing about this, I don't know why this garage has no power, but it does not. The interesting thing about this is if the garage has no outlets or switches, that's perfectly fine by code. If the garage does have outlets and switches in there, then the power has to work. And this first electrical outlet needs to be a GFCI. And then some cities will require that every single outlet, I see one over there, there's probably one back there, there's probably 4 or 5 in this garage. Some cities require that every outlet is a GFCI, and that's $100 a piece, or others just require that this first one is a GFCI, and that all of these other outlets wire into this first outlet, and that, you know, if something gets triggered, that's the one that pops. And that's all for safety. You know, everything that they're doing now is for safety reasons. So You need to get an electrician to come out here, $100 on the GFCI. There's going to be a service fee to make sure why the electrical is not working from that house to the garage. And electricians just aren't cheap. They are not cheap. We deal with them every single day, and they're expensive, and they're going to be more expensive for a homeowner. So you'd probably be talking, $1,000 to get the power working out here. If they have to get tools and like dig a line, which I don't think they would here. I'm assuming there's just something, maybe the fuse in the inside of that house has tripped or whatnot. But regardless, we need to get somebody out here looking at it to figure out why the power's not working. So, and again, we're looking at these houses and it's overgrown, and to some homeowners it feels super overwhelming, but to the investors that we deal with every single day of our lives, this is no big deal. This is the type of stuff, these are the type of houses that we're looking for. Houses that are dirty or outdated, or houses that you just need to sell really quickly. We do a fantastic job at that. So I wanted to share with you just that entire run through of the house and all of kind of these hidden costs that are associated with getting the house up to code, getting the house ready for a new buyer to come in. A lot of times, like I said, it's said death by 1,000 cuts, death by $100 or $500 or $1,000 at a time to get it up to date, and it just adds up. So our rule of thumb is about $25 to $30 a square foot. So again, $25,000 to $30,000 to get this house updated, and it could be more because we really count the interior stuff. That doesn't really include like a new roof. So it could be more than $30,000, even though the house, it's a nice house, it's a brick house, it's in really good shape, but there's just all of these little things that add up. And so I hope you found this video to be helpful when it comes to helping identify, why your house isn't worth exactly what you're thinking it is, because the investor is going to have to come through and they're really going to have to spend a lot of time, effort, and energy to make sure that these things are up to date, up to code, and it passes the new homeowner sniff test. If you have any questions, feel free to go to boltandbeam.com or send us a quick email and we'll be sure to get right back with you. Thank you so much. Happy house selling.